Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another whiskey review. And today we are going to be talking about the latest Elijah Craig. This is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, and this is going to be the B524. Comes in at 11-year age statement, 130 proof. And we recently did a video where we reviewed every single ECBP we could get our hands on. Over, 22 to 24 of them I think I've reviewed personally. We're going to go over also where this ranks in the ECBP lineup so that you know whether you should be picking this one up or not. So thanks for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. So when it comes to ECBPs in general, I have gotten my hands on nearly every single ECBP batch since they came out with the ABC series at the beginning of 2017. So what is fun is still being able to collect these, walk through them, and see as we go throughout the years what this brand is doing and how it is transitioning. Now, I will say one of the things that we saw in that video, and you can go find it in our archive where we went over every single ECBP batch and what were the best batches in there. But since about 2020, when we're talking about 2021 through the present, really the only standout batch has been the C923. Everything else has been somewhere in the middle. So let's see where this one ends up. Pulling up the stats on this one, I have been able to get these for $85 thanks to my good friend Kelsey down there in Ark, Kansas. He hand delivers these to me with each batch. I have actually not been able to get my own ECBPs in Ohio or Northern Kentucky since 2019. So got to depend on a network of whiskey friends to keep me up to date with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, because darn, it just dried up in my area. As I said off the top, it is 130.6 proof, and the age is stated at 11 years. To be specific, 11 years, 2 months. So we are out of the 12-year age statement era of ECBP, and it will play in to some of the commentary in this review. So we're going to break down the nose, the palate, go into the finish. Then we'll get into the final scores, not only showing where it ranks amongst all the reviews this year, but also where it ranks amongst all of the ECBP batches that I've reviewed as well. Well, thank you for joining, everybody. Cheers. Now, one thing I will say, getting back into this one, you can kind of see where I am on the neck of this thing. My initial notes on this were like, oh my gosh, that is hot. That is a hot pour. Not just spicy, like just ethanol hot. And I haven't had to say that about an ECBP for a while. It's calmed down tremendously. So now getting into this tasting right here, I do not have that instinct at all right now. Still 130 proof, so approach with caution. I like putting my schnoz and everything, though. One thing that sticks out about this one, and in my memory bank almost stands out as unique amongst ECBP, this is very spice and baking spice forward. So there's a lot of pepper, baking spices. It's the dominant note. There's a bit of a powdered sugar on top of a fried dough on the nose. Subtle nuttiness. It is not very nut forward like some ECBPs can be and Heaven Hill can be. The other surprising aspect of this, which is actually kind of strange to me, it's still an 11-year age statement. The oak on this is like non-existent. I probably think this is like 8 years, 9 years, like somewhere in that more middle range where the oak isn't so present yet. It hits me like that versus 11 years. So that's something surprising as well. I say that, and then I just got a blasted cherry and oak. Let's go then into the scores here. On the nose, I do like the nose quite a bit. Gave the nose on this one thumbs up. Now let's get into the palate. Mm. Little bit divisive when it comes to the palate here. The initial mouthfeel is just fantastic. It is so oily and creamy, and it's giving a whole lot of flavors up front. Geez, primarily a lot of fruits, which isn't something that I typically say on an ECBP. Dark berries, that cherry that I mentioned at the tail end of the nose. And I also get the heft of the oak up front. So that does show up, even though I did say that off the nose. Now, as it transitions, though, to mid palate, man, does it take its foot off the accelerator a bit. Uh, just get waves of like vanilla and nuttiness. A little bit of that oak there, but for the most part, it almost comes across more like a barrel proof version of the 7-year bottle and bond rather than an 11-year age statement. It's got kind of that same profile as the 7-year bottled and bond. I am getting quite a bit of the oak today. That is interesting that that oak is now emerging too, a little bit more than any other tasting I've had on this. But that's why I do this multiple times. Now, when it comes to the palate, I do think it takes the foot off the accelerator a little bit when it comes to mid palate, but the front palate so strong, I ended up still evening it out into a thumbs up. So giving the palate a thumbs up as well. Now let's get into the finish. Ah, there's a moment where the finish almost seems like it might decelerate further from the mid palate, and then it picks up again and it blossoms. But there is like this moment of like, oh my gosh, is it gonna do it? And then it does it, and it's like, yeah, it tastes really good. The dark fruits emerge, caramel, that oak really emerges there on the finish. The finish with the oak is probably where it finally lives up to its age statement. Bit of chocolate cola too. So this might be a regional thing. Uh, there's a restaurant by me called Frisch's. So I've got that all around the Cincinnati area. I think that's more regional though, with the Midwest. But one of the things that they'll do is they'll pump different syrups into their fountain products, and they'll pump chocolate into Coke or Pepsi or whoever they're negotiating with at the time. This reminds me of Frisch's when they put the chocolate in the Coca Cola. All right, one more sip. Let's see if I find anything else. Really nutty on the finish too. Um, I mean, I didn't mention it all that often. I think I mentioned a little bit off the nose, but on the finish, that's when you really know it's nutty and it's Heaven Hill. Ah, great balance though on that finish. I love the finish on this one. The complexity of it really was what rises up here, and the length of it's real good. I'm going to give the finish 2 thumbs up. Really, really enjoy the finish here, even though it brings you down a little bit mid palate. Man, it ends on a really good note. I'm still tasting it now as I'm trying to talk through it. It's one of those pours where I'm trying to give the review and talk through it, and the flavors are still coming at me. So let's go through the scores here. On the channel, we have this scoring system behind the scenes, 10 different metrics that walk us through the flavor, how much we enjoyed it, the experience, the mouthfeel, how complex it was, and then the value, how much we like it for the price paid. Flavor gave it an 82.5, mainly because of how strong it is up front and on the finish. The experience score gave it an 82, solid throughout, really. Maybe a little lack of complexity mid palate once again, but it makes up for it in other ways. And then value for 85 for an 11-year age statement. I mean, still the one of the best values in whiskey at 85 for what it gives. I am not giving up on ECBP yet. I will keep buying these with every batch as long as they kind of stay in this price range. So final score on this one ended up at an 84 out of 100. That ranks 14th out of 46 of the reviews done so far this year. Right now, there is no ECBP in the top 10. Man, that's going to be the first time. Last year we had the C923, and then, there wasn't one in the top 10 the prior years either in 2022 and 2021. Thus far, it's kind of shaping up as a middle of the road year, similar to 2022. And then all time, though, just to put this, when I say middle of the road, in complete context, an 84 is still 60th out of 200 bottles reviewed all time. That is a solid score. So don't let some of my negativity and disappointment shine through. It just has to do with how far ECBP raises the bar sometimes, more so than anything else. Compared to anything else, this is a fabulous whiskey. So then when it comes to among all ECBP that I have personally reviewed, I have personally reviewed nearly every single batch since A117. I do have one pirate bottle in there too, which is batch 10. So that's 22 batches that I have put a score to, only missing 2 of the ABC batches amongst that since 2017. This ranks 13 out of 22. So it's right down the middle. It does a lot of good things. It doesn't stand out necessarily above some of the best batches, among some of the best years. But for $85, it's very, very solid whiskey. And once again, I will keep buying ECBP. If they maintain this level, I'm perfectly fine with it. I'd love them to continue to exceed expectations like they do every now and then with some of the batches, or what they consistently did in 2018, 2019, 2020. But hey, they haven't raised the price all that much. Beggars can't be choosers. Keep bringing us great whiskey, Heaven Hill. So that completes my thoughts there on the ECBP B524. If you've tried this, let me know what you think in the comments, how you think it compares to other ECBP batches, what batches you like more, what batches you like less. Let us know in the comments, and we'll catch you on the next whiskey review. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these